Hello and welcome to the Hutchinson Veterans Outreach Program. Today we have with us Janae Plemoff, and you are the Suicide Prevention Coordinator at the St. Cloud Veterans Hospital, if I'm not correct. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself maybe and a little bit about what it is you do?
Absolutely. So I have been a suicide prevention coordinator for 2 years, and I have been a mental health registered nurse for 12 years. I've always been interested in mental health and psychiatric nursing. My mom is a psychiatric nurse and has been for 38 years.
So it runs in the family?
Yes, absolutely. So it's always been something I'm comfortable with, passionate about, interested in. And then about 5 years ago, I lost a friend to death by suicide. I had known many people in my life who had died by suicide, but this specific person, it really hit home to me. She was also a mental health nurse. And so it just felt like I got sparked a passion for creating awareness within our community, within our state, with everyone, really.
Exactly.
So I started becoming really passionate about suicide prevention. Our VA opened up another role there for a nurse, so I fit nicely into it.
Very nice.
Yeah, we have 2 suicide prevention coordinators. Okay. That's myself and another young lady named Ann Fleming. Okay. And we now have a case manager as well, and she really focuses on veterans who are at elevated risk for death by suicide and have high risk for suicide flags identified on their chart, so they get enhanced care. Okay. And then we have a community engagement and outreach partnership educator.
Okay.
A mouthful.
Oh, definitely. How do you get that on a business card?
I don't know. Yeah. And so she goes out into the community and builds coalitions within the community for suicide prevention in all of our 27 counties in our catchment area.
Okay. So with you being the coordinator, what do you do?
So I do a lot of behind the scenes stuff at the VA. So okay. I do building of policies and procedures, making sure that our staff are asking the right questions to veterans as they're being seen. So creating those policies and procedures and really helping people to follow through with those. I educate new employees about suicide prevention, about safety planning, and I also follow up with calls to the Veterans Crisis Line.
Okay.
So when someone calls the Veterans Crisis Line, if they're a veteran, they press 1. So it's a national hotline. Anyone can call the 1-800-273-8255. And if you're a veteran, you press 1, okay. And you get routed to specific responders. So, or a family member of a veteran. So if you're calling about a veteran or if you are a veteran, you press 1. And those specific responders will say, will you accept a request to a suicide prevention coordinator? If the veteran says yes, then within 24 hours, myself or one of my colleagues will call that veteran and make sure they're connected with care. Make sure they have the proper appointments, the proper medications they need, and then just the follow-up.
Okay.
So those are some of the big things I do. Another thing I do that a lot of people aren't aware of is I do what's called a behavioral health autopsy. So the state of Minnesota sends us a email with every veteran who has died in the state of Minnesota within the last month.
Okay.
So then I narrow it down to every veteran who died by suicide in the state of Minnesota within the last month. And then I narrow it down to our catchment area. And so then I follow up in the veterans charts of anyone who falls into that category. It's usually between 1 and for a month.
Okay.
And I dig in the chart and I see, what did we miss? What could we have done better? How could we have helped this veteran so that we can modify what we're doing to help others in the future to prevent deaths by suicide? And then we follow up with the families of the veteran who died. And we ask them if they would be willing to talk with somebody from our national team to help in those same ways.
Because it's not only the veteran that needs help, it's the whole system that needs help. Mm-hmm. And the only way we're going to do that is by helping each other.
Absolutely.
I know we had talked earlier, there are some signs to look for, some warning signs. Can you tell us a little bit about those?
Yes, so there are definitely warning signs to look for. It can vary in different people what warning signs you'll see, but sleeping too much, not sleeping enough, increased agitation, increased anger, a change in demeanor, giving things away, important possessions, talking about death, talking about dying, talking about death by suicide. Let's see, feeling like there's no reason to live, having no hope, no future orientation, so just really not talking about anything in the future. Those would be some of the warning signs.
Okay, so would isolation be in there too?
Absolutely, isolation. And so COVID has really increased those risk factors as well, because people are already isolating because of COVID, and then if they are also isolating because of depression or thoughts by suicide, that can increase their risk as well.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. Now I know you and I have also talked about one of the ways to maybe help some other veterans is to just simply reach out and give them a phone call. Mm-hmm. I know some places have the buddy system where they keep in contact once a week or once a month with just certain people in their area. Mm-hmm. And that does actually help, if I'm not mistaken?
Yeah, so there is a myth that asking people about suicide increases their risk of dying by suicide. That is not true. In fact, it's quite the opposite. Like you said, if you ask somebody if they're having thoughts of killing themselves, or just reaching out to them, it actually decreases their risk because you're giving them that opportunity to talk about their feelings, letting them know that you really care about them, that there's somebody there that cares if they are alive or not alive. And it helps them to know that they're not alone.
Yep, exactly. Mm-hmm. I know you had also talked about the 135, if I'm not mistaken?
Yes. So oftentimes when somebody attempts a death by suicide or dies by suicide, they feel really alone, like nobody cares about them. That is absolutely not true. On average, 135 people are affected by one death by suicide. So if everybody knows that, if I can tell you one thing, that there are 135 people on average who care about you and whether you live, I hope that gives you hope. I hope that makes you feel less alone and know that there is somebody out there who cares, whether it's your medical provider, mental health provider, your spouse, your neighbor, your mailman.
Yep.
135 people care about whether you're alive or not. And I just want to let you know that you're not alone.
Exactly. We're never as alone as we think sometimes we are. Mm-hmm. And that's always good to know. And there's always somebody somewhere, whether it's a prevention line, whether it's a group chat, whether it's, in our area we have Tim. Mm-hmm. There's the Eagle's Nest. There's the ranch that's taken place up at the Eagle's Nest. We have Angel Rains. There's all kinds of places that you can reach out for. And sometimes people just need to know that don't just sit back. Mm-hmm. Be active. Go out. If you're feeling alone and you're feeling stressed and you're feeling that you're going to hurt yourself, reach out and talk to somebody.
Absolutely. There are hotlines out there and there are resources out there. So the Veterans Crisis Line is that phone number I said earlier, that 1-800-273-8255.
Exactly.
If you're a veteran, you press 1, but it's a national hotline. Anybody can call. There's also another hotline I like to talk about.
Go right ahead.
Called Vets for Warriors. So it's the word vets, the number 4, and then the word warriors.
Okay.
And it's all veterans on the other line that answer, which can really help people to reach out.
Yep.
And it's also not directly connected to the VA. So I just want everybody to know that with the Veterans Crisis Line, you can say that request and then we follow up. With Vets for Warriors, that's not the case. However, some people like it because they're talking to a veteran on the other line.
Exactly.
And that is also a 24-hour hotline.
Very nice. Very nice. I know one of the other things that we were talking about earlier, as far as your job is concerned, you also do some outreach.
Yes.
In different communities. And you're willing to go out there and talk to everybody, I guess.
Yes, absolutely. So I go to halfway houses, I go to businesses, I go to schools, I can go anywhere and talk to adults about suicide prevention. So I just a couple weeks ago went to one of our schools and talked with the staff at a staff meeting. I'm doing a community ed class in the St. Cloud area next month. Like I said, I go to 2 halfway houses. I go to one every month and then one 4 times a year. I go to the farm show was one thing I did just recently in St. Cloud. It was
Nice.
a 2-day farm show, and we put up a booth there and talked with a lot of veterans about firearm safety, lethal means safety. That was really great. Handed out a ton of gun locks. So we do all sorts of things within the community. I came here back in, maybe it was November, and partnered with you and Tim Burley and some other individuals and showed the My Ascension documentary and had a roundtable discussion. So if you know of anyone, if your business wants to have me come and talk at your employee meeting, if you want me to come, and help you organize a roundtable discussion, I'm happy to do that. Any way we can get the word out there about suicide prevention, walks, whatever it might be.
Exactly. Sometimes it's just a matter of putting it up front.
Yes.
And saying, okay, this is not a stigma. This is not something that just happens every now and again to somebody off in a corner somewhere. No, this happens a lot more than what people think.
Yes. The reason why we do outreach activities is because the VA with suicide prevention has really flopped to a public health model. Because we found statistically that of the 17.6 veterans who die by suicide a day, 11 of them have never touched a VA wall.
Yep.
So we want to make sure that we're getting out to where veterans are and where community members are so that we can help decrease that stigma, get them the resources that they need, get them the mental health services that they need so that we can continue to decrease that number of deaths by suicide and decrease that stigma.
Exactly, because we need to put it out there and let people know that, hey, just because the thought's there does not mean you're crazy.
Mm-mm.
It actually sometimes just means that you've been strong for way too long.
Yeah, and you might just need some extra protective factors.
Yep.
So one of the things I really talk about is, we talked about those risk factors a little bit ago, and risk factors are anything that increases your risk of dying by suicide.
Yep.
But there are also protective factors, and protective factors are anything that decreases your risk of dying by suicide. So for me, a protective factor would be my children, my family, my sense of purpose in helping others, and my connectedness to my community. But for somebody else, it might be as simple as that they have a home or they have a hot meal. So we want to make sure we're helping them with those things.
Yeah.
So that we can decrease those risk factors and increase those protective factors.
Exactly. And sometimes it's just for right now. You know, you have, say, anything from, you know, a large bill that you're not expecting and can't pay and don't know where to go. Family, even just remembrance of things that you may have seen while being overseas or while being in conflict. There's a lot of news today that are showing very graphic pictures of things that are going on in the war. And it hits a lot of veterans.
Yes. So if you can get connected with CARE, I know at the VA specifically, if your CARE team knows that you have specific anniversaries or specific triggers, we can help to support you through those times.
Yeah.
And connect you with like increased care during those times. So maybe increased therapy or increased support just during those time periods. A really cool thing about the VA that we have that I have not found in the community is mental health treatment coordinators. So that's not a doctor. Yep. It's not therapy. It's a nurse or either a registered nurse or a social worker, and it's somebody that you can be assigned to. You can see them a couple times a month, once a year. It really depends on what your needs are.
Yep.
And then it's somebody you can talk to, vent to, kind of get things off your chest, and they can provide feedback for you. They can help you with resources, help you to find extra support within your community.
Exactly.
So I would say that if you are not connected at the VA and you feel like you don't want a lot of support, but you want just a little, a mental health treatment coordinator is a great option. Also, if you just want additional support and you already see a therapist and you already get medications, but you just want somebody else to talk to.
Yep.
Too. I was a mental health treatment coordinator for 4 years, and it is so rewarding, not only for the veteran, but for myself. And when I left that position, I had a veteran tell me that I helped to save his life. And that is so humbling. But a big reason why I say that is because I want everybody to have that experience. I want everybody to have their life saved. And so if it's in a way with a treatment coordinator or a crisis line, please just reach out.
Exactly. And I know sometimes I've heard this from other people that are standing on that edge. It's like, well, I don't want to be a bother. I don't want to waste somebody's time. I don't, you know. And I've thought about that, and you know, like you were saying, that you did actually reach out and help somebody to help themselves, and how that makes you feel. And you have to remember, when you're reaching out to somebody and allowing somebody to help you, you're helping that other person just as much.
Absolutely, yes, absolutely.
And you're worth the time.
Yes, and I heard that so much when I was in that role, that like, oh, there's somebody else who has a lot more trouble than I do. And I just want people to know that, like, it's not a competition of how much trouble or how much grief or how much burden you're in. If you need the help, the VA is there to help you.
Exactly. All you have to do is ask.
Yes.
And if you can't get through the first time, ask again. And if that doesn't work, keep asking.
Absolutely, absolutely.
You're worth it.
Yes, and like I said earlier, the crisis line can connect to the VA. And so if you feel like you're not getting through to anybody that you need mental health care or you need some help, like, keep calling the crisis line and they'll keep connecting you, and we'll get you the resources you need.
Exactly, exactly. I know one of the other things I wanted to go over with you is you brought some gun locks today.
Oh, yes.
So we're not out to take people's guns away.
No.
But basically what they are is they're just this metal sheet you actually just run through your trigger and where you actually cock the weapon. But the idea about the keys, and I'd never heard this until we had met up at over here at the Lutheran Church over here. Now, from my understanding, you take the keys and you put them in a glass or a pail or something of water.
So what we teach is freeze the keys. So we want to talk about lethal means safety. So that means decreasing your access to your means.
Exactly.
So we have people take the key to their gun cabinet and lock their ammunition separately and take that key as well. Put both of those keys in a Tupperware, put water in it, put it in the freezer and freeze it.
Yeah.
And the reason we do that is because the majority of people who die by suicide do so within 60 minutes of the thought to the action.
Okay.
24% of people who die by suicide or attempt suicide do so within less than 5 minutes.
Wow.
Less than 5 minutes of the thought to the action. So if we're freezing the keys, then somebody needs to go to the freezer, take out the Tupperware, thaw out the Tupperware, take out the keys, unlock the ammunition, unlock the gun, load the gun. Does that take more than 5 minutes?
Normally, yes.
Yes. So that gives them time between that thought to the action. And not only that, but they're also thinking about something else.
Yep.
Right? They're thinking about how they can get those keys unthawed. And so they're having time to think, to rethink their thought of dying by suicide.
Yep.
So
Exactly.
some other things we can do are just use the gun lock itself, which is really great resource as well. Like you said, we're not in the business of taking away people's guns. We just want to decrease that risk when there is a risk.
Exactly.
So there are places in the community that will hold on to your guns if you're having increased thoughts of suicide. Some gun shop owners will hold on to them. Some police stations will. So just call some different places and see what's out there. Or friends or family will hold on to them for a while in some cases. So the gun safety is really important.
Exactly.
Also, if you're thinking about dying by opioids or medications, there are a couple of things I like to suggest. Pharmacies will dispense your medications weekly if you want.
Okay.
I know it's a pain to go to the pharmacy once a week, but if that is what is helpful for you.
Well, that would also get you out of your house
Right.
once a week.
Absolutely.
I mean,
Yes,
you know,
so you're decreasing that isolation.
Exactly.
Yes, great point. So that's one thing you can do with the medications. Another thing is a lot of people, including myself, not anymore, but before I knew more about this, have a drawer full of old medications, things that they had from a surgery 5 years ago or extra Tylenol or whatever. That is a risk.
Yes.
For yourself, but for people in your family. So I suggest that you clean those cabinets or those drawers out and take your medications to a proper disposal place. So there,
I believe in Hutch, if I'm not mistaken, our local sheriff's department has a drop box for pills.
so a lot of police stations do, fire stations do, some pharmacies, so some
Okay.
Walgreens do and some do not. So just call your local pharmacy and check that out. The
Nice.
VA also has a disposal.
Nice.
Yes.
Nice. I know they send out a lot of medications, and sometimes they're only used for a few days, and then people stop. So it's to clean that out and get rid of them because you don't need them anyway.
Absolutely, yeah. And if it decreases your risk or the risk of somebody else in your family that you may
Exactly.
not even know is struggling with this, then that's worth it.
Oh, definitely, definitely. So basically, I know one of the things we want to bring up is that talking about suicide does not promote suicide. It doesn't drive a person or put it in their head that, oh, now that they're talking about it, now this is going to happen. It actually gets people more aware.
Yeah, absolutely. We did touch on that just a little bit about how it makes people feel like they're not alone and that they're cared about. So we just want to really, when we're talking with somebody and asking them the question about whether or not they're thinking about killing themselves, we just really want to give them that time and space to talk about it. We don't want to ask it as if it is a judgmental question. So we just want to be really straightforward. Are you thinking about killing yourself? And we don't want to ask it when they're halfway out the door and they don't have the time to talk about it with you.
Yeah, exactly.
So no, it does not increase your risk just because you ask somebody, or increase anybody's risk.
Exactly. And it never hurts to just check in with people and ask them how they're feeling, and not the, oh, I'm fine, okay.
Absolutely.
Actually
How
think
are
a
you
little
really
bit.
feeling? Yes.
Exactly. It helps to let people know that you actually do care.
Yes. People just want to feel cared about and concerned for, and when they're feeling in the depths of darkness, just knowing that there is someone who can help you find that light.
Exactly. Well, I'm thinking we're just about ready to get going here. I do want to ask you if there's anything that we didn't cover.
I would just say again that if you are having any thoughts of hurting yourself, please reach out and call the crisis line. Call that 1-800-273-8255.
And we'll put it on the end of the show, too.
Yes. If you're a veteran or calling about a veteran, press 1. But you do not have to be a veteran to call this number. It is a national hotline. Put a magnet on your fridge. Put it in your kids' bedroom, in your bathroom, wherever. Like, make sure that it's out there.
Exactly.
So that everyone knows that there is a phone number out there, that there is help. And we are at the VA wanting to help veterans, and so if you've not connected with CARE, please reach out and see about connecting.
Exactly. And I know one of the things that I wanted to cover too is that this is a community crisis as well.
Yes.
It's not just about veterans. It's not just about teenagers. It's about everybody.
Yes.
And it's up to all of us to help everybody stay safe.
Yes.
We're all going through a lot of the same stresses, a lot of the same pains, but we all have the ability to actually reach out and ask somebody how they're doing and maybe spend a little time talking.
Yes, suicide prevention is everybody's business, and you do not have to be a mental health professional to ask somebody if they're having thoughts of suicide.
Exactly. Well, thank you very much for coming on here. I appreciate it. I am already looking forward to having you on our show again.
Thank you.
Hopefully back in September.
Hopefully, yes. Thank you for having me.
Thank you very much.
Have a great day.
You too.